Now at 6 and streaming on CrossroadsToday.com, a Victoria teen receives a sentence of 30 years. The reasons why this evening. And a family in mourning after the death of their toddler. How the tragedy happened straight ahead. And House Speaker Mike Johnson in Odessa today, kicking off National Energy Week, calling out the Biden administration.
Quite a bit of cloud cover still over the area. It's going to be a little bit of sweater weather for the next couple of days, but this weekend is a whole lot better than last weekend. Well, it's just a little cooler. It'll be warmer by then. We'll have all your weather coming up in just a few minutes.
Plus, we hear from a few of the ladies who just brought Victoria East a state title. I'll have that in sports.
You're watching 25 News now at 6. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Karina Garcia. Don Brubaker is off tonight. 17-year-old Logan Robles of Victoria was sentenced to 30 years for the fatal shooting of 57-year-old Hector Gonzalez. Robles shot Hector Gonzalez multiple times after a verbal altercation back in September. First responders attempted to save the 57-year-old, but he died from his wounds. Authorities located Robles and two more teens in a nearby apartment complex where the murder weapon was discovered in an alley behind the apartment. The teen must now serve half of the sentence before he's eligible for parole. This morning at around 10, an 18-wheeler caught on fire after one of its tires blew out. There's no word on if the driver of the vehicle was hurt or the extent of the damages. Should it stay or should it go? For now, the Old County Jail in downtown Victoria will stay for at least the next 6 more months. Today, Victoria Preservation Incorporation presented a proposal to county commissioners asking the court to hold off on making any decisions for the next 6 months. During that waiting period, county leaders will accept bids for demolition and also review cost estimates to restore the 1940s building. Next Monday, county commissioners will review exactly how they plan to move forward. And with that, let's take a look at your forecast with Chief Meteorologist Mac Perez, who's telling us it's going to be a sweater weather kind of weekend or week.
Well, week. As a matter of fact, the early part of this week was a little chilly. Today, we barely got up to 71. Tomorrow, we're looking for about a high of 63, 65. So that might require a sweater for some of you. However, the good news is that after a rain chance on Thursday, we've got a much warmer weekend coming in, and we'll be talking about that coming up in just a few minutes. Karina, back to you.
Mac, thank you. And this just breaking shortly before 4:30 this afternoon, the Supreme Court blocked Texas from enforcing a Senate Bill 4, which would allow state officials to arrest and detain people they suspect of entering the country illegally. Now, in a major case testing the role of the First Amendment in this digital age, the Supreme Court is set to hear arguments today focused on the federal government's ability to fight what it sees as false or misleading and dangerous information online, particularly related to COVID-19 and election security.
In a First Amendment free speech case, the U.S. Supreme Court considering how far the federal government can go to combat misinformation or misleading and dangerous information online. Justices today appeared skeptical of Louisiana Solicitor General Benjamin Aguinaldo's accusations that the federal government coerced social media companies into moderating or taking down posts.
Some might say that the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country, and you seem to be suggesting that that duty cannot manifest itself in the government encouraging or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information.
In the lawsuit filed by 2 Republican-led states and 5 right-wing social media users, they argued the administration was unconstitutionally squelching conservative point of views. Lower courts sided with the states. Aguinaldo today accused the government of violating the First Amendment free speech rights by pressuring platforms to change their content on controversial issues like COVID-19 and election security.
And pressuring platforms in back rooms, shielded from public view, is not using the bully pulpit at all. That's just being a bully.
But conservative Justice Brett Kavanaugh appeared concerned about the national security implications of prohibiting such requests.
It's actually inaccurate about something the troops are doing, U.S. troops are doing, and they're, you should take that down. It's factually inaccurate. It's harming the war effort. It's not accurate.
The Biden administration has argued it never coerced or threatened social media platforms, but rather companies voluntarily enforce their own policies to ban inaccurate or dangerous content online. Em Nguyen, ABC News, Washington.
A tragic accident out of North Harris County leaves a female toddler dead after she was hit by a rideshare driver. Deputies say the driver struck the toddler without knowing she was in front of the vehicle. Immediately after the accident, family members pulled the driver out and began assaulting him.
Level of sight was probably a little bit higher than the small toddler, and unfortunately, as he was going forward, just struck her with enough impact that dropped her into the vehicle and then dragged her for a bit.
Gonzalez shows me what happened.
Authorities say the driver was hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. Investigators are now working to determine whether charges will be filed against anyone involved. A parking dispute at the Houston Zoo led to gunfire. Houston police say security guards opened fire at a woman who reportedly assaulted a man during an argument over a parking spot Friday afternoon. Officers received a call about the incident at around 2:15. They say the woman tried to leave the scene in a vehicle with children inside. When the vehicle hit one of the security officers, shots were then fired into the vehicle, hitting the woman multiple times. The woman was taken to a hospital in an unknown condition. House Speaker Mike Johnson visited the Permian Basin in Texas today. The speaker kicked off National Energy Week by taking on a tour of the Diamondback Energy drilling rig at the invitation of Representative August Fuller, whose District 11 includes the region. Johnson also criticized the Biden administration for what he called its anti-energy agenda, claiming Biden's policies are bad for the nation's energy security and bad for the nation's overall economy.
The Biden administration, there's no other way to say this, they've had a radical anti-energy agenda. And it's not only bad for America, bad for our economy, it's bad for our allies around the world as well.
Johnson also commended several energy companies for their advancements in energy production. Governor Greg Abbott wants the Texas legislature to bring in investors behind large-scale home purchases. You can read this article by the Texas Tribune on our website, crossroadstoday.com. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click that notification bell. For now, stay with us. Former President Donald Trump says he can't make bond on his civil fraud case. Coming up on 25 News Now at 6, the reasons why. Also ahead in Consumer Watch, why more Americans are pushing for a 4-day work week next. Former President Donald Trump is having trouble securing a $464 million appeal bond and the fraud judgment against him and his sons. Monday's Trump's attorneys told a New York appeals court that getting the bond is, quote, practically impossible, unquote. Trump's legal team says they have reached out to 30 underwriters to back the bond, but potential insurers are seeking cash to back the bond, not properties. Trump is asking the court to delay posting bond until the appeal of the ruling is over. The bond is due at the end of this month. There is now a push to shorten the standard U.S. work week from 40 to 32 hours. A bill was recently proposed in the Senate aiming to make that a reality.
How does a 4-day work week sound? Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders wants to make that a reality, proposing a bill that would cut the work week down to 32 hours without reduced pay.
The sad reality is Americans now work more hours than the people of any other wealthy nation.
In many European countries, employees have shorter work weeks. France has a federally mandated 35-hour work week. Denmark has a 37-hour work week. Belgium has adopted a 4-day work week. And the UK recently tested the idea. 61 companies did a trial run of the 4-day work week between June and December of 2022. The director of the 4-day week campaign talked about the results last fall.
It was overwhelmingly successful.
Nearly 90% of the businesses that participated in the pilot were still operating with the 4-day work week 1 year later. 31 of those companies have made the change permanent.
When workers have that 4-day week for 32 hours, no loss of pay, they come back into the workplace working much more effectively, efficiently, they're better rested, also more creative.
The program also found revenue remained the same during the trial, and in some cases even ticked up slightly. Critics, though, worry it could hurt employers and employees in the future.
They would ship those jobs overseas, or they would automate to replace those workers for whom they have an increased expense, or they would dramatically increase prices to make this stay afloat.
Some unions support the bill, but it's unlikely to pass in the Senate. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
An unwelcome milestone at the gas pump. Gas prices are higher than they've been all year. AAA says regular gas climbed to $3.47 a gallon Monday. That's up from $3.45 a year ago. It's the first time since December that prices have been up on an over-year basis. Industry experts say while demand usually increases as the weather warms up, other factors are causing prices to skyrocket. Specifically, recent drone attacks on Russian oil refineries and refinery outages caused by extreme cold. Leading us to your viewer poll this evening, you can scan that QR code right there on your screen to vote. The question is, have you felt the surge in gas prices, yes or no? According to our results right now, it looks like 78% stand at yes, and the remaining 22% stand at no. We want to keep on hearing from you. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part, and we're going to have an update on 25 News Now at 10. Now, the world's ocean surface temperatures broke records every day for more than a year. It's led scientists sound the alarm about the impacts on marine life and extreme weather. High ocean temperatures can be deadly for coral. Australia's Great Barrier Reef is currently experiencing its 7th mass bleaching event, which happens when coral becomes stressed by atmospheric conditions. Ocean heat also sets the stage for more ferocious hurricanes.
Just wanted to add to that, the Barrier Reef of Australia is just an immense, enormous barrier reef, which if it gets bleached, there'll be no little babies to live there. If there's no little babies, there's no babies to grow up to be bigger fish, and pretty soon the populations become stressed. So that's why one thing leads to another, and all of these things are building up to give us a lot of problems in the next few years. We got up to 69 degrees today. 60 was our overnight low. That's obviously a little bit below average, a little too cool for people on spring break. Tomorrow is sweater weather. And then when we get to the end of this week, we'll have much nicer weather. We'll have all that coming up in just a moment. Welcome back, everybody. Obviously, a rather cool and damp weekend, although the rain just wasn't as much as earlier anticipated. In fact, on Friday, we got 4900ths. On Saturday, only 100th officially at the airport. And on Sunday, 3900. So it wasn't far cry from the 1 to 2 inches that I had anticipated. So let's take a look at your temperatures for tomorrow. Get a load of this. 63, the high temperature in Victoria. Yeah, it's going to be sweater weather, as I like to say. 67 in Houston, 66 in Corpus Christi, and 60 will be the high temperature in San Antonio. So all of a sudden, we've got that north wind bringing in that cooler air, and that's why we're going to be on the chilly side. But get a load of this. Your temperature will be slowly rising. In fact, by the time we get to the weekend, we'll be back to a very comfortable 78 degree high temperature, and that's going to be pretty helpful for those of you that are on spring break, or even if you're not. The big map across the country shows you the high pressure over the central part of the country, and that low, that L that's spinning out over Arizona, that is actually our next weather maker. It's going to be rolling over us in the next 2 or 3 days, giving us a shot at some rain middle of the week. But then behind that, things get much nicer. Let's do the timeline here. So we're looking at Tuesday. The low is still out to the west. On Wednesday, it rolls up over the Panhandle. And then on Wednesday night, we start seeing a little bit of rain chance. But it's Thursday when we have a pretty solid chance for shower activity around our area as that low is on top of us. And then we go forward, and then we pick up a drier air mass, a northwest wind, and all of a sudden high pressure builds in over our area. So as we get to this coming weekend, things are going to be fairly nice. Wanted to show you this, and this is always a concern. You see that white line? That is the freeze line. So the Midwest has had a month of mild weather. Everything is blooming like everything is blooming here. And now we've got a late season freeze. I mean, of course, it's not for us, but for all the way down to, Birmingham or Atlanta, they're going to be looking at a little bit of freeze overnight. Now, it may not be a hard, killing frost, but it is late and the buds are very tender at this time of year. And so we may have a little problem there. So, oops, you didn't see that. Let me go back one. And the high temperatures as we get to Tuesday, that's Tuesday afternoon, well, they'll be in the 50s, but we'll start warming. We'll be in the 50s as well, but when does our warming trend come? It won't be here until the weekend. So tomorrow, looking at partly cloudy to mostly cloudy skies and a high temperature, only 63 down at the coast. In Cuero, I don't know, it's going to be cold, looking at 61 as a high temperature, but at least the north wind will end and the south wind will start kicking back in, and that's going to help the warming up process. So we take a look at your long-term forecast, your extended planning here. Cloudy on Tuesday, 68 on Wednesday with a few late evening thunder showers, late in the evening. The majority of the event will be on Thursday, where we do have a 50% chance of scattered thunderstorms or showers. And then after that, then we start the warming trend, because Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll start pushing back up to almost 80 degrees. So that'll be great for the spring breakers, right, Karina? You're ready to do that, right? Just reminding everybody, we do have a QR code. I'd love for you to scan that. Put Crossroads Today on your phone, and Karina is ready to go for spring break.
I'm actually ready to go to sports, so Zach, take it away.
All right, well, we're going to hear from some of the state champion East powerlifters. Coming up in sports. Just days after being a failed physical cut from the Dallas Cowboys roster, star linebacker Leighton Vander Esch has announced he's hanging up the cleats. Vander Esch came into the league in 2018 when Dallas drafted him in the first round, still just 28 years of age, but the injuries just continue to pile. He said his body won't cooperate any longer, saying he is medically retiring from the NFL. Throughout his career, he totaled 469 tackles, forced 3 fumbles, even scored 1 touchdown. He was a second-team All-Pro in 2018. This past weekend, Victoria East brought back some hardware, first place to be exact. This for the second consecutive year when head coach Marcus Hernandez started at East. He started from the bottom with only a couple of girls, and it's safe to say they have come a long way.
It feels awesome. I mean, I've been here since like the beginning of the team. We used to literally take the whole entire team every weekend, and now we just have so many kids, and just seeing the team grow and getting those points and be able to go back-to-back champs and possibly looking at a 3rd year, it just feels great. And it's awesome to see Coach Hernandez like get what he wants, and like I know he's worked very hard for this.
Seeing the growth and just the girl side alone, and knowing that it's taken off here at Victoria East on the girl side, it's big. It's one of my goals that I had set when I got into coaching. And it's happening right in front of my eyes. It's great.
Well, now he turns his page to get the boys ready. And speaking of Victoria East, we've got the always fun Victoria East versus Victoria West battle over at the Youth Sports Complex. This being softball. Victoria West has been on an absolute tear of late, winners of their last 5 games. Victoria East been on a tough 3-game slide, but just played pretty well against a tough Cuero team, and head coach Melissa Buck wants her girls to bounce back after dropping their first district game.
Yeah, I mean, East versus West, always a little more pressure, a little more hype going into it. But at the end of the day, it's another district game. And after losing the first one the other day, we really need to get a win no matter who we're playing.
Got some softball rankings, and as always, we've got our fair share of teams here in the Crossroads. 2 of them play each other tomorrow. The Shiner ladies enter the week at number 9, and right behind them, the number 10 Ganado Maidens. And what a game we have tomorrow as Shiner heads over to Ganado as these 2 powerhouses go at it. Shiner, not Ganado, out of the playoffs last year. It's always fun when those 2 hit the diamond. Of course, we've got Hallettsville, who's trying to get another state championship after falling just a bit short last year, and Cuero stays put at number 4 in Class 4A, and the countdown has officially begun. We are about 10 days away from Astros opening day. That's it for your sports. Karina, back to you.
Thanks, Zach. We're going to be back in a moment. A piece of cinematic history returns as the original ruby slippers from the Wizard of Oz find their way back home. Of the slippers worn by Judy Garland in the iconic film The Wizard of Oz were returned to their rightful owner, Michael Shaw, by the FBI today. The shoes were on loan to the Judy Garland Museum in her hometown of Grand Rapids, Minnesota, when they were stolen in 2005. It took 13 years for the shoes to be recovered during a sting operation involving the FBI and the Grand Rapids Police Department in 2018. So now the ruby slippers are back in the hands of Shaw, who plans to show the slippers on tour before putting them up for auction. You know what? I'm gonna get hate for this. I have never seen The Wizard of Oz.
That's crazy, actually.
That's amazing. Really.
I know, and I'm not gonna lie, the little monkeys used to kind of freak me out.
Well,
so it never caught my attention.
Many of us had nightmares because of those monkeys, but that was, I think, in 1939, and it's just a classic. Really,
maybe I gotta add it to the list.
We're gonna come over and visit her and say, sit down. We're gonna watch
this movie. I don't know. Isn't it your favorite movie?
No, actually, I'm a big fan of Borat. It's probably the #1 movie in the world. Wizard of Oz might be in the top 30. Pretty good movie though. Borat.
No.
Oh, Borat.
Borat is what he said.
Watch it on your own time.
But that's all sarcasm. The Wizard of Oz was all of our childhood fantasies, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
it is.
I never did get that brain. Anyway, folks, we've got some cool weather. I'm calling it sweater weather for 2-3 days. And then after that little rain chance on Thursday, we do start warming up. We should be back to about 78 to 80 degrees by the time we get to the weekend.
All righty. Thank you, Mac, and thank you for joining us. We hope to see you back here tonight for 25 News Now at 10.